I'll just talk louder. So, look, thanks for joining the webinar today. We hope everyone's safe and well at these times. I just wanted to do a really quick introduction to what we're going to be discussing. There's a lot of content we're going to be talking about. Hopefully, the pace is at a level that you can follow along, but hopefully, we'll leave the webinar with 5 to 10 minutes for any questions, and then, you know, it goes without saying, feel free to reach out to me, Chris, anyone in the team, if you've got any further questions. You know, we can spend a bit more time. So, you know, when it comes to business at a time as we're looking at right now, we are clearly in a very difficult time. You know, with everyone locked up at home, the only businesses that are going to do well at this time are products and services that are home-based. You know, businesses that work well at home, like gardening, or, for example, the online education space, seeing a huge spike at the moment. So, I mean, this is clearly not an event that any business can say they have prepared for, right? No matter how smart you are, the business is, you know, majorly winning right now because of COVID-19, I believe, is totally, you know, 100% by accident. So this webinar is not about recession-proofing your business, as that is clearly not the situation we are currently in. This is worse than a recession. Economic activity is, you know, is just totally cut off, right? So what this webinar is about, however, is what can you do during this time of downtime to maximize your potential to bounce back stronger when the economy actually picks up. You know, we know the economy is going to pick up. It's a question of when. And that's really the focus of this. So especially with purchases of non-critical items down, you know, going for sales right now for non-critical products or services during this time may not clearly be a winning, profitable strategy. But going for organic traffic, brand value, and future value is what you should be thinking about. So really thinking about playing the long game now is going to help you recover quicker. And it's as simple as that. And so the way we've broken this webinar down is to talk about elements that make up that longer term strategy.
Awesome. Do you want to move to the next slide, Neil?
Yep. So in the next 75 minutes, you'll become an expert in, not really an expert as you can see on the right-hand side, but you'll know at least where to start. So this is what today's agenda looks like. Just a couple of quick intros. So I am Neil Sheff. I founded what is called Bubble in 2016 after a career in investment banking as a project manager. I ended up deciding to follow my passion of SEO, content marketing, and social media, you know, growing businesses organically, something I've been doing for nearly 10 years now. So I'm passionate about business. That's why I love what I do. We come across some really interesting clients, recently working with a radiator company. Who would have known? I'm a big football fan. I'm a big fan of Manchester United. I can hear some of the other football fans or soccer fans, as the US audience call it. You know, but yeah, I've also recently taught myself how to make a really nice pasta sauce. You know, during this lockdown period. So you know, we love to attempt cooking and have some delicious food. So that's me, and I'll hand it over to you, Chris.
Awesome, thank you. My name is Chris Ralph. So I founded Boulder SEO Marketing. I guess about 2 years ago, teamed up with Neil and Bubble, simply because the agency grew too fast. I love to speak, teach SEO, so I get to talk all over the world. So it was naturally a great fit to team up with Bubble, and we've been doing amazing things so far. And then this thing came to a screeching halt, but we're still in great shape, and we're reconnecting with you know, our target audience through these webinars. So hopefully you find this webinar valuable. Lisa, over to you.
Hi guys, it's nice to meet you all. I'm Lisa. I'm the content manager at Bubble, and I've really just always been a writer, so that's what I do for my job now. Managing people's content for them, helping them get their tone of voice across. Been doing it for about 10 years as a job now, but I think even as a little kid, my favourite thing to do was to go away and pretend write newspapers, and yeah, just a big writer. And then when I'm not writing, you'll usually find me playing poker, so I'll occasionally make the hop across the pond when we're not on a lockdown and play some poker in Vegas. So yeah, that's me. I'll be talking to you later today about copywriting and having conversations with your audience. Over to you, Daniel.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Burns, and for the past 20 years, I have been managing digital agencies. So I've been pretty much working with developers and clients in that intersection between digital marketing and websites. So a lot of what we learn today is really, how do we generate traffic? But part of what I'm going to be talking about as well is how do we make sure that that traffic that we're generating is actually converting into leads and sales into the website. I'm originally from Brazil, but I've been here in the States for a very long time, and I currently live in Boulder, Colorado. So that's a little bit about me. Chris, I'll hand it over back to you.
Cool. And actually, I think, Neil, you were starting off the presentation.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to start off with digital storytelling. So you are 22 times more likely to remember a fact when it has been wrapped in a story. Why? Stories are memorable, relatable, they make you more human. We're genetically wired to love and respond to stories. It helps us to better understand an idea. Have you had that moment when you're really struggling to get hold of a concept and all that person has to do is explain it in a particular scenario, person X, this is how they would use it, and suddenly you get it. It's the same reason. Stories trigger emotions, and they help you to connect more. We buy with our emotions, and we justify with logic. So 95% of our purchase decisions are made subconsciously. It's widely agreed by neuroscientists that our conscious, rational mind plays a minor role in decision-making. Emotions drive purchase more than your logic. Your audience may forget what you say, but they will not forget how you made them feel. Selling exclusively, especially if you're a brand selling a complex product or a high-value product, so selling exclusively to Mr. or Mrs. Rationale or Miss Rationale for complex product is going to be limited. So how do we sell to them? Simple, we tell stories. One of the best ways for a customer to experience your complex product is by sharing a customer story. Studies, we've seen that they've proven that a story activates a region of the brain that processes sight, sound, taste, and movement. So, another quick example, using customer scenarios and stories worked for the same reason that flight simulators are better to train pilots than using instructions on cue cards. And so just making this shift to simulation in pilot training was one of the main reasons why the number of accidents due to poor decision making came down by just over 70% in the 1990s. Sometimes reality is too complex. Stories give it form. Telling stories makes you real. Telling stories increases your ability. I'm sure the folks on this call have heard the phrase of know, like, trust. It increases your ability to get your audience to know, like, trust you, which leads to more relationships, which leads to more delighted customers. So how do you make your brand more human? Tell stories. The reason we tell stories is really to build connections with people. It's a very human thing we do in every conversation we have. right? So, one thing to mention is to keep, when you're thinking about the stories you want to tell and how you're going to tell them online, whether it's on social media, your blog, your website copy, your homepage, YouTube, etc. Just keep in mind that most people don't really like to read stuff that's at a high school level. Hemingway wrote at a 4th grade level. So we really like content that is super easy for us to immerse ourselves in, and where there's and this is really key, and where there's a really low barrier to entry between us and the story we're being told. So keeping your story simple sounds easy, but sometimes it can be very complicated, especially when you're knee deep in the business, and actually just pulling yourself higher to a high level to simplify what it is you're doing is really going to help. So let me tell you a personal story. So where I fell into digital marketing was actually by accident. In 2009, I tried to build my very first website, and at the time I was working in investment banking for Barclays Capital, and by night I would come home and try and build this site. Anyway, fast forward 6 to 9 months later, I built this fully functional, really well designed website. It had everything you needed it to have, way more than it needed to have. It cost £20,000, and by the time we launched, actually there was no customers. We missed the whole trick of who are we building this website for. We ended up building this for myself, actually not for the audience that was meant to enjoy the site and buy from the site and experience the site, right? So and that was back in 2009. So in 2017, when after years of running businesses online, succeeding, doing fairly well with online marketing, I decided to start my blog and just share content because I love this space. And I decided to put my heart and soul into this experience of mine in 2009 because I had come across the same question over and over again, which is, Neil, we need to build a website. What do we need to do? What do we need to consider? So I thought, why don't I just write this blog post? Anyway, that blog post was about 3,000 words, I think, and it took me forever. I'm not the fastest writer. I'm not Lisa fast writer. So, I'm incredibly slow, but, I take the time, and I did it over a number of days, and I launched my very first blog post. In 2017, and within 2 days, this blog post, after sharing it in a few communities, actually started getting picked up and getting loads of comments. So within 2 days, I saw 1,000 people visit it, consume it, subscribe to the blog, and just overall engage with it. And it opened up conversations with some founders who I'm still friends with, and it really just resonated with people. And in every conversation where a client or a potential client is looking to build a website, I always try and refer to this because there's so much learning in here that people can go away and apply themselves. So this goes back to, I guess, the theme of this section, which is creating story really drives impact. Creating an authentic story can really take your business 2x your business or 3x your business and move it forward. And it's not necessarily about the quantity of stories that you're trying to create, it's about the quality of the stories that you're creating. We speak to businesses that are struggling to get 1,000 organic visitors, i.e. non-paid traffic, to their website every month. This is one post that within 2 days got that. And that's for a brand new blog. So pretty good for a brand new website. So instead of throwing facts, statistics, and testimonials at your audience, focus on making your brand thoughtful, memorable, and real. So what stories can you share? My earlier example is a mistake followed by lessons learned. People like mistakes. There's a really good book by Robert Cialdini. I'm sure I'm not doing his surname any justice, but it's called Persuasion. Would recommend reading that. It's a really good book. The second point here, your customer story. This is one of our favorites. We do a lot of this, which is, you know, we're not writing a generic case study. Avoid case studies if you can, and just avoid using the word, because it puts you in a frame of mind that ends up with a piece of content that looks very transactional, i.e. customer had this problem and this is how we helped customer. No one really wants to read that. What they want to read is your customer's challenges, your customer's problems, your customer's uniqueness, and then the uniqueness to the solution to what it is you help them with. In other words, you're making the customer the hero, not yourself the hero. How about a question one of your customers has recently asked you? This is super easy. You know, we get questions all the time. Last year I had all of Q1 of last year, I had the same question around international SEO, which is one of the most complex parts of SEO. And so I decided to blog about it because I was answering the same questions. You could do the same thing, you know. Industry stories, what's the latest trends, changes going on in the industry? What about an expert story? So I'm sure, you know, you're all experts in your industry, but why not partner up with another expert and ask them to contribute to your site or interview them for your site? You know, Chris is going to talk about SEO later on, and SEO is in search engine optimization for those people that aren't aware of the acronym. But a big part of SEO is EAT. So Google ranks websites or loves websites which show expert, i.e. authority, A, T, trustworthiness. So if you can increase your EAT by getting other experts to contribute to your site, then you know you're going to do yourself a favor as well, and you're now building a real relationship with other experts. What about a data backstory? This is really unique, especially for bigger brands. So you start to see big brands with large users create a lot of data backstories where they're surveying their users or they're looking at the users. So for instance, you know, Tinder's got, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of users. There's a number of data points that they could analyze to then pick out a really cool story. You know, that's really unique and that's going to get picked up by the press. So these are just a couple of examples of what stories you can share. But a story you must share now to humanize your online experience is your one-person startup story. So, you know, I remember the day when, you know, I quit investment banking, and it was just me, and, you know, I was trying to grow the agency. We're trying to, you know, get clients, and I was walking into networking events and meeting various people, and I would, you know, just talk about where it all started, you know, some of the mistakes I've made, some of the successes we've had, the customers we work with. You know, it would just be a normal conversation where you're talking, you know, at very specific kind of startup key points. And, you know, larger companies are really going to struggle with this, where the founder or where the company started is very far from where the company is now. And that's a real challenge, especially in the online space, because what people need now, what consumers are looking for now, is personalization, is humanization. Whereas smaller brands are going to, you know, one-person, two-person startup companies or smaller businesses are really going to thrive in this space because their story is very close to their company story is very close to what their story is. So, you know, this is just something we're going to see over the next few years, is brands breaking down those corporate walls and really just becoming real people. And so, you know, one exercise you could do is imagine you started up all over again tomorrow. What are the things that you would share? So you're offering the same services, the same products. What's the things that you would have shared had you been in that situation? And here's just some examples. And then what you could look to do is integrate those stories across your website and social channels. Recently I met a company last week, and we were on the phone, and they were telling me how they were experts, and I said, fine, but like, what makes you unique? Because I can't really tell from your website, you know. And then he started sharing about how many years they've been in the space and they've pioneered some research, and I was like, that's really cool and that's really unique. Why doesn't your online presence show that? You know, and the word here is leverage, is leveraging what you already have. So think like a large brand, but act like a tiny one. I will hand over to Lisa.
Hi everyone.
Lisa. hang on, let me make you the presenter.
Yeah, no worries.
And there we go. So you can accept the presenter ball.
Okay.
When we tested this, it took a few seconds to hand over that ball, but you still let me know when you have control here. Alright. Should be seeing your screen momentarily.
You can let me know when you're getting me.
Okay. Yeah, I think because of the bandwidth issue, it takes a little bit longer. Did you click on share screen?
Yep.
All right, there we go. Excellent.
You got me now, yeah?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I can see in front of slides, I can see the Chrome
Yeah,
icon.
the little box there. Yeah, it wouldn't let me share it without that, unfortunately. So we'll just have to make do, if that's all right.
All right. Oh boy, it's a little bit slow.
Okay. Is it working there? Everyone's got my conversational funnels slide
Yeah,
up, yeah?
I can see it.
Great stuff. So anyway, after that little bit of faff there, I just want to spend some time talking to you guys about conversational funnels. So don't worry if that sounds like salesy nonsense to you guys right now. Hopefully you'll come away with some understanding of how you can begin implementing your own sales funnel. And like Neil said, if you don't, or if you have any questions, you can ask me at the end or reach out on LinkedIn or wherever, and I'll be happy to help. Oh, are we okay with the sound there?
You're a little bit choppy. I think it's a little bit better now. Sorry about that.
Okay. So anyway, before we get into the nitty-gritty of sales funnels, I just wanted to hammer home a point about conversational copywriting, because without a conversational style, your funnel will have a much harder time converting users. So your conversational copywriting is about making your website a two-way conversation, at least in the mind of your user, by taking a far more personal approach to your tone and voice. So depending on your brand, you can do this to varying degrees, but like throughout my career, I've always learned to kind of err on the side of personal over formal, just because of the effect that it has on those you're trying to convert. So I've got two examples here which I'm about to show you, which should demonstrate why personal converts over formal. So the first is what you'll typically see on a lot of business websites, and it goes a little something like this. Company X is an award-winning corporation who have been market leaders in the field since 1999, with business locations in Miami, Amsterdam, and York. So in this one, like, you can tell your users everything that you like about how market leading you are, or how high quality your products are, or that you're an award-winning company, but without any personality behind it or any proof to back it up. It's just noise. And every extra word they have to wade through in order to convert is just going to be another excuse for them to filter off your website. So I've rewritten this for the same company, but with like a little bit of conversational flair added in. And that one reads, "Hi, we're Company X, and since our humble beginnings in the quaint English countryside town of York, we've chosen Miami and Amsterdam as our homes away from home for our US and EU operations. We don't like to brag, but we've won a ton of awards since we opened shop all the way back in 1999, including the X Award of Excellence and the Why Are You So Fabulous Award." Obviously, those aren't real awards, just made them up for this. So, on hearing that, you should be able to pick out the little changes that I've made to make it warmer and more conversational. So, for starters, I've begun with "Hi," and just added in little touches that show how we feel about the company. So I've shown the brand's humble beginnings and injected in a little humor, and still managed to quantify the authority in the space by talking about the brand's accolades, despite not using any boring terms like market leader or award-winning. So it's just getting around what you expect to hear all the time, and then delivering it in a conversational, personality-driven way. So hopefully you guys can see how one of those is going to convert better than the other. So once you've kind of perfected your conversational copywriting style, you should have your readers on the hook and they're engaging with your brand. And that's all well and good, but it doesn't do a whole lot of work by itself in affecting your bottom line. So now we want to move them through your sales funnel. And your sales funnel is basically just the journey a user takes with your brand from the first time they see your company's name somewhere, perhaps on a Google results page, like all the way through educating them on whatever problem they've encountered, persuading them that your product or service is the best one, and then ultimately through them making a purchase. So you can see on the right here that I have a couple of very high-level examples of how this can look. But obviously it's going to look different for different businesses in different sectors. So again, you can feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions on how to adapt this specifically for your business. But the examples here, they lay out two sales funnels that both begin with a Google search, and the first one goes like this. The user makes a search and sees your meta title and description in the results page. They click on the result to a landing page with a CTA, so that's a call to action. They do sign up to your newsletter, which, as we've discussed, should be friendly and engaging. Then the user receives a promotional email, like perhaps with a discount or a limited time offer. And then the funnel ends with the user deciding to purchase a product. And then the second one is very similar, except this time they see the meta title and description for one of your products or your services. They click through to the product page, they read the information on it, they maybe have a question about the product and they ask your chatbot service, and then either the chatbot or a real person, if necessary, answers the question in a short space of time. And then after the user is satisfied with the answer, they'll make a purchase. So that's your two kind of ideal sales funnels that you could have for a business, obviously very high level. So hopefully for both of those you can already see how approaching your copywriting from a personal point of view will really help the user convert to the next stage of your funnel. And that's why conversational copywriting and sales funnels go hand in hand. So for example, if your meta title and description at the first stage of both of those funnels is really dry and boring, perhaps it's filled with jargon or just talks about how market leading you are, you're not necessarily going to entice your reader to click through to the landing page. Likewise, if your landing page copy is super long or boring, or the call to action isn't clear, there's no reason to assume that the user will necessarily want you to clog up their inbox with similarly long and boring emails. Whereas if your landing page is engaging, and then the user receives a friendly and conversational, perhaps a genuinely useful email off the back of signing up to your newsletter, they're more likely to open the following promotional email and then click through and purchase the product or service. So you can start asking yourself, what does your sales funnel look like? And if you're a bit stumped there, that's okay, because I've broken it down into 3 chunks for you. So we begin with the top of the funnel, which you can also call the awareness stage. And this is where people are looking for products, answers, resources, data, etc. They have a problem, they need someone to help them, ideally you. And that's where your strong keyword research and optimization tools really come into play, but we'll get Chris to talk about that in a moment. Then we have the middle of the funnel, which is the user's evaluation stage. So at that point the user has some kind of idea of what they need in order to solve the problem, but they're not entirely sure whether or not it's your product or service that's the right fit for them. At this point you have the user's attention already, and you just want to build up your trust and authority on whatever subject you're speaking on. So that kind of goes back to what Neil was saying about, showing what research you've done in the field, like why you're the guys who stand out. And then all things going well, you kind of move along to the bottom end of the funnel, which is the purchase stage, which is probably going to be the section that you have been working on if you've tried any digital marketing already. In this section, like, a user knows what they want, they know what they need, they know that you might be a contender for that product, but they're not necessarily going to buy it. So this is just you kind of lubricating the process of buying from you. So perhaps you give them a little nudge in the form of like a voucher or a limited time offer or something, just so that they're free to go and make that purchase. So being aware of the stages of the funnel is all well and good, but you might be wondering for your brand specifically, like, what the different funnel stages actually look like. Like, how do they translate into content? So I've just laid out a couple examples for you here. So at the top of your funnel, you'll be looking at optimizing your metadata, like your meta titles and descriptions, writing query-led blogs, creating helpful videos, publishing downloadable guides, anything that gives you the opportunity to capture some like user data and push them towards a product or service page. And then at the middle of your funnel, you'll want to start converting all those nice new leads that you got at the top of your funnel. For example, by sending out one of those engaging email newsletters we talked about, or publishing a storified case study, as Neil said. And also just kind of generally optimizing your web copy to be conversational and personal and persuading your user and making yourself the authority in the space. You know, like, what makes you guys so great? Why should they trust you? This is also where kind of user-generated content can come into play. So any pictures that you've got of your customers using your product or service, testimonial, all of that kind of good stuff goes in the middle of your funnel here. And then I've also included chatbots in here, because more and more businesses are opting for like an automated live chat feature on their website. And I think if you've got a bot on your website, it's important to pretend, like, it's important not to pretend that it's a real person. Like, some websites do this, they'll use like a picture of a human face and they'll try and talk in a human way, but users very quickly suss that it's not a human and they feel tricked, and you're actually undoing a lot of that work that you've done in getting your users to trust you. So there's actually a lot of like cute and friendly ways that you can show that you're using a bot service that actually builds trust and authority in your brand. So the little example at the bottom here, we've got a little robot face, or you could even use like some copy that says, "Hey, I'm the company robot. I'll be happy to answer your questions," or "Find you a human who can." And it just shows users that you're being honest, and they'll appreciate that more than trying to be tricked or lied to. And then at the bottom of the funnel, you have your more traditionally salesy content. So you might offer a free demo, an email promotion, vouchers, or a limited time offer. But again, it's like important to note that your users are very savvy and they know when they're being sold to. So being self-aware about it actually goes a long way towards getting potential customers to trust you. So even saying something like, you know, what do we need to do to persuade you to buy from us? Like, just making it obvious that that is what you're trying to get them to do. You don't need to hide anything. You know, you need to be honest with your users and just talk to them as if they're a person, because it's very easy to lose sight of that when you kind of do this deep dive into all the data that I'm sure Daniel and Chris will be getting into in a moment. So just trying to bear in mind that the people who are reading your copy, no matter what company you are, they are human. So there is a secret little extra funnel step here that a lot of people won't talk about. So this is after someone has already made a purchase. You know, I don't need to tell you that a repeat customer is far more valuable than a new customer, and a customer who thinks you've gone above and beyond for them in the terms of the content that you've served up, they're going to convert even more customers for you all by themselves. So I always implore clients to not just ignore a customer after they've used a purchase, after they've made a purchase, sorry. So you can like send a friendly automated email and just say, you know, how was it for you? perhaps request an image of them using your product or service that you can put on your website, or suggest next steps for them, or you can even upsell to them and say, hey, like, you know, I noticed you bought this product, here's a bunch of accessories that we have that go with it, you know, are you interested, here's a discount if you fancy it. You know, it's just about keeping in touch and keeping it personal, because people buy from the people they like, which is unsurprising, really. And anyway, now we're on to Chris. Thanks, guys. Sorry if the audio is a bit dodgy there. Thanks for sticking with me.
All right, excellent. So I should be becoming the presenter. Lisa, let me know if you can see the slides.
No, we're just seeing your files at the moment again. I think you might have the wrong window open.
Okay, so I think it takes a second. Let me know once you can see.
Yeah, I can see it now.
All right, excellent. And Lisa, if you don't mind muting yourself, there was a little bit of static, but luckily your audio improved quite a bit.
Okay.
So, all right, so let's talk about the more tactical side of things. So I'll talk about search engine optimization. So now we create all this amazing content, right? We do all these stories, we put all this great stuff up on our website, but we got to make sure that the content is actually optimized for search. So SEO, search engine optimization, refers to anything that we can do to actually get our content to be found in the search engines, and then to get that content ranked ideally on page number 1 at the very top of Google. All right, so what I want to show here is the search engine results page, so in short, SERP. All right, so if you type a search query into a search engine such as Google, for example, up there, SEO training Denver, which happens to be an important keyword for the Boulder SEO marketing website. Google will display, will show you exactly how many other pages do you have to beat, or how many other pieces of digital entities are indexed in Google's database that you need to beat to get to the top of this results page. All right, and then usually Google will show something that's called a position 0, like an answer box. And I'll talk about this later, but this is basically an about.me page that I set up for to promote our SEO trainings in Denver. So obviously we know how to do this stuff, so we got right there the top position, or position 0 in the SERP. Then Google made that change about, I think, 6 months ago, where they will only display 2 URLs from the same website. We used to totally dominate this page with, I think, 5 or 6 listings to the Boulder SEO marketing website. Now you will only get 2 results on the first page. Obviously, again, we know how to do that, so we got the first 2 organic listings there about an upcoming training that we're doing in August. And then again, this is off-page optimization, which I'm going to cover a little bit later on. This is a LinkedIn showcase page about our upcoming SEO trainings. So we basically dominate the top section of the SERPs there, and then specifically for local companies where people add a geolocator such as Denver, Boulder, New York, London along with the search query to Google. It is very important to claim your Google My Business listing, because Google will usually display the local map pack there. And as you can see, the Boulder SEO marketing website also, or business is listed there. So we completely dominate the top of the SERPs, and that gets you results. So basically, this is a SERP. The SERPs change all the time. Sometimes there are carousels. There's all kind of different things based on what the person is searching for. All right. So if you do this right, obviously what I just showed you to completely dominate that page for that search query, you will see amazing results. It doesn't happen overnight. It will take a little bit of time. As you can see here, this is actually a real customer example where we were able to implement basically the strategies that we're discussing in this webinar. We were able to increase the Google organic search traffic month over month by about 300%, starting, I think that was back in May 2019, to I believe March 2020, just before the COVID nightmare started. But this basically is a good example of what is possible if you take the time, if you allocate the resources, if you have the knowledge to implement a powerful, I don't want to even say SEO strategy, a digital marketing strategy for your business. All right, and then this is actually an example of one of our websites. We increased Google organic search traffic year over year by about 43%. Oftentimes, SEO companies, they neglect their own website, so we finally took the time to implement the strategy, and here we go, proof in the pudding. It is getting us a lot of new inquiries every day, not so at this time, but we're actually working on our own websites at the moment because we're going to be ready when, out of lockdown, business will be there again. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take this to heart and that you get ready now so that you can capitalize on this when we're sort of back to normal again. As I mentioned earlier, SEO does not happen over time. You're not just going to get on a bike and win the Tour de France, right? It takes a lot of training. Adam, I'm sure you appreciate that. I saw that you signed up for the webinar. My former boss, he's a big biker. He practices a lot and he still wins races. It doesn't just happen, right? Adam's been practicing for years and years and years and years, and that's what it takes. SEO is not a one-time thing. You have to do this over a long time. So don't fire your SEO agency after month one. Usually takes about 2, 3, 4 months, depending on a variety of factors. All right. So how do you do SEO? I hear you ask. Let me quickly explain Google's algorithm. And Neil already briefly spoke about EAT, that algorithm update. But basically, there's about 250 main ranking signals in Google's algorithm, potentially thousands of sub-ranking signals. So the better we address all of these ranking signals, naturally, the better we should rank. This combined with a storytelling content marketing strategy that, really meets your target audience needs, that is the power of SEO. All right. So we can break these main ranking signals down into 5 pillars here. First of all, the technical aspect of SEO, which we're going to address in a little bit here. Neil, I think you're going to help me talk about the technical SEO aspect. Then on-page SEO, basically anything that happens on your website, starting with keyword research, which I'll address in a second here. And then off-page SEO, I already showed that when I explained the SERPs. Basically, anything that happens outside of your website, you can take advantage of websites such as about.me, LinkedIn showcase pages, directories, etc. So I'll briefly talk about that in a second. And then, love it or hate it, social media marketing needs to be part of your SEO strategy. And actually, when we do it for our clients, we don't even call it social media in certain occasions, because we do social media strategies specifically with SEO in mind. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's absolutely crucial that you include that component in your SEO/digital marketing strategy. Then Daniel will cover the design/UX and conversion rate optimization component of the SEO strategy. And then, of course, content marketing, storytelling, that is the foundation of an SEO strategy. All right. So if you address all of these ranking signals, it's quite a bit of work, but this is how you build your digital marketing credit score. People here in the US are, most likely familiar with the FICO credit score, right? If you pay your mortgage on time, you get points. If you pay your car payment on time, you get points, etc. So the financial institutions, they take a look at everything, who you are, how you manage your financials. Based on that, whatever you do with your finances, they will assign you a credit score. That's actually a screenshot of my credit score back in February. I check that on a regular basis because I'm thinking about refinancing. Right now, interest rates are amazing. But basically my point here is that the better you address all of these ranking signals, the better your digital marketing credit score. The better that credit score, the easier it will be for you to rank your website's pages in Google and other search engines. All right, so let's, Neil, and I'm going to loop you back in here. Let's talk about technical SEO and content optimization.
Okay.
This is actually a real customer example, right?
Yeah, so, we're going to start off with technical SEO optimization. For those that aren't familiar with this term or this phrase, is think of Google. In order to rank in Google, you need Google to crawl your website really quickly. Just like, you want users to find the right information at the right time, fairly quickly so they don't lose patience. You also want Google to be able to do the same. And that's the purpose of technical optimization. It allows Google to crawl your website. It allows Google to read your website as quickly as possible. And that's why we do technical SEO optimization. So yeah, this is a real example, and that that was a huge uplift over that period of time. And majority, and Chris in the earlier slides showed you the various pillars that go into SEO, and I have to say on this campaign, I would predict anywhere between 80 to 90% of this uplift in organic traffic for this brand was purely due to technical SEO. So, technical SEO in terms of the different things that you can do when it comes to SEO is really interesting, because you find people. It's like Marmite, and I actually did a search at the moment because I think Marmite is a UK specific spread. That I'm going on a tangent a bit, but let's just come with me, Chris. So Marmite is a particular US or UK toast spread on toast that we have, and you find people at either side of the coin. They either hate it or love it. So I was doing a Google search actually while you were talking, Chris, and the US equivalent, someone is saying in a forum, is marshmallow fluff, and in Canada apparently it's butter tarts. But anyway, this is really interesting. So look, let me come back to this. Anyway, you get the message. Technical SEO is, some people either hate it or love it. You tend to find content creators, writers, they tend to hate it. That's not everyone, but largely with the clients we work with, if they're a writer, they tend not to get too involved in technical SEO. And then if you're say a marketing manager or a developer, oh, you're all over technical SEO. So it's a really interesting aspect. The number one thing that I would say with technical SEO is it has the ability and the power that when done right to see a massive shift in organic traffic, whereas content creation and domain authority link building, like link building, you'll see an incremental increase, whereas with technical you could make a fix and immediately see a significant increase. So the point here is take care of your technicals for your website. Make sure it's analyzed and thoroughly optimized for technical SEO. In this instance, we found that actually when we uncovered the issue going on here, there was a historical migration of a website which was impacting the technical SEO, which is something we ended up fixing with redirects and fixing 404 pages and some other techie issues. So this is a crucial part of SEO. And then Chris, if you just go to the next slide. So this is now content optimization. So it's optimizing the user's experience by having the right content in the right place, engaging the user. Engaged users is good because engaged users stay on your site longer. They send user signals back to Google to say this is a good site. I like this page, right? But at the same time, optimizing your content for SEO is also telling Google what this page is about. It's actually making Google's life easier, right? You make Google's life easier, Google loves you back. Why wouldn't you? So, you know, thinking about your website copy, Lisa was talking about creating a conversation, you know, and that should be first and foremost the top priority. But what if we were also strategic and sprinkled in some SEO? So we create a conversation with both users and Google now, right? And that's how you, in this instance, we saw an uplift of 70% within 10 months, and that was just purely down to optimizing the content excuse me, of the page. And then Chris, if you just do a quick next slide. So this is just a really quick shameless plug. Chris, if you go back, so the SEOwriter.io is a free tool that we're about to launch. It's going to be initially free. It's for teams, brands, you know, small businesses with writers, with content creators in-house who actually want to take their content to the next level by using this tool, which will then tell you what your content needs to include in order to rank for Google. So this will increase your chances of actually, you know, getting your content found and most importantly read by your audience. Back to you, Chris.
We'll include the link in the follow-up email.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a step back. So what is crucial to on-page SEO? It is keyword research, and this is where we see that a lot of people fail. Neil and you and I, we do a lot of phone calls with potential clients. Most people don't understand the importance of keyword research, or they just go for the low-hanging fruit, like the short tail keywords. I quickly want to talk about short tail and long tail keywords. Short tail, basically a keyword of 1 or 2 words strung together, usually high search volume, but the search intent is lower. So Denver SEO could mean many things to many people out there, right? So usually it's more competitive to rank for these keywords. Relevance is usually lower. So I'd rather be found for keywords such as Denver SEO services. Usually a little bit lower search volume, definitely higher intent. These people, they are most likely searching for an SEO company that offers, you know, the services that somebody can buy, right? It's usually less competitive, definitely higher relevancy. So we do use a variety of tools to do keyword research. A tool that, you know, you can talk directly to Google or get data directly from Google is called Google Keyword Planner. It is part of Google AdWords. So you do need to run an active AdWords campaign to get the full functionality of this tool. Otherwise, you're just going to see ranges of average monthly searches, which I'm going to highlight in a second here. So back to our keyword, Denver SEO. I use that as the source seed keyword for this tool to get me additional ideas. What other keywords, you know, may people are typing into the search box on Google. So based on that seed keyword, Google is telling me that about 2,400 people are actually searching for Denver SEO on a monthly basis. I think it's actually a lot of SEO agencies using that keyword just to see how they rank, right? But then more important, under keyword ideas, Google is actually telling me, hey, you may want to think about Denver SEO company, Denver SEO expert. Less people are searching for these keywords, but the search intent, I think, is definitely higher, and I'd rather be in that first spot on Google for Denver SEO services than for Denver SEO, to be honest. So we'll go through usually thousands of keywords to nail down a list of that is manageable to optimize for a specific website, and then we'll assign 3 target SEO keywords, very closely related keywords, to each and every page, and then we optimize each and every page on a website for usually 3 closely related keywords. All right, so quickly want to introduce you guys to the term snippets. If you type something into Google, again, there's one of my keywords, international SEO training. This is called the snippet. That's part of the SERP, the search engine results pages. This is the technical term for that listing there. Let's quickly dissect that snippet so that I can tell you how to optimize each and every page to create optimized snippets. All right. First of all, make sure use your main target SEO keyword in the URL. Try to include the most important target SEO keyword on the first page of a specific web page, and then use the other keywords throughout the content, and then hyperlink to applicable, let's say, a services or product page to send some SEO juice up the ladder. Then don't go crazy with hyperlinks. I would say 1 internal hyperlink per 100 words, and then try to include a external hyperlink to a website such as Wikipedia, just like a high quality relevant website outside of your website. Then do not forget to include a call to action. If you want to get a page indexed right away in Google's database, go to Google Search Console and simply plug in the URL into the inspection tool at the very top. This way you're establishing a direct connection with Google, and you're not going to have to rely on the Google bot to crawl your website and to identify a newly developed page that way. Then promote content via social media channels, which I'll talk about in a second. Apply schema or Google markup to get those extensions at the bottom of your SERP snippet. And then, so the title tag, when you create optimized title tags, should be right around between 50 and 60 characters. If you do this right, Google will display that content in the snippets. Then your description tag on the back end of your website should be right around 150 to 160 characters. Again, if you do a good job, Google will probably pull that data and showcase that in the snippet. And then use Google markup or schema to get those rich snippets or site links at the bottom of the snippet. All right. Let's briefly talk about off-page SEO and link earning. Again, I mentioned that earlier for the keyword SEO training Denver. I was able to get the about.me page to the position 0 there. So a lot of people will click on that, and if you actually do a search, I encourage you to click on that. Once you get to that about.me page, there's a call to action, which then redirects people to the Boulder SEO Marketing website. All right. Same thing with LinkedIn showcase pages. If you click on that listing, there's a button that will drive people back to our website. I believe the August SEO training that we're hosting. And then last but not least, the best off-page entity that you can optimize is probably your Google My Business listing, because it is a Google product. You communicate directly with Google. You get sort of like an active backlink from Google. So that's a very quick intro to off-page optimization. And I think we're running a little bit behind here. So just quickly want to talk about social media marketing for SEO. Do not neglect it. Hopefully this is a little bit of encouragement. For this client, B2B, we use heavily LinkedIn. It actually got them, we were able to track about $60,000 in revenue directly related to our efforts on social media, specifically with LinkedIn. You don't have to be on every platform out there. But you have to be on the right ones and the ones that your customers are using. And then you have to put a lot of effort into your storytelling, messaging. Don't just do it because you have to do it. Do it right and put a lot of effort into your content development there. With that said, Daniel, I am going to pass you the ball here. I'm going to make you the presenter.
Perfect.
Alright, so I may have been a little bit over time here. Well, we still have about 12 minutes.
Alright, let me know if you guys can see my screen.
There's usually a little bit of a delay, but...
Should say design and UX.
Alright, there we go.
You see it? Perfect.
Yes.
So, alright, well thank you, Chris. And then, so what I'm going to talk about now is conversion rate optimization. And I know that we're running a little tight on time, so I'm going to move through these pretty quickly. But just so you know, this is the topic that I can personally talk about for days. I actually have, a similar webinar where I can talk about this for a couple hours because there's so much about it, and I think it's such an important aspect of everything that we're doing. Now, one of the things that Chris is talking about is SEO, and by far SEO is the most important way of generating traffic and generating leads to the website. But SEO, although is as important as it is, it's not the only part of the equation. And one of the things that I see a lot of other agencies kind of falling short on is where they focus only on the SEO, and they're not taking a look at the bigger picture, which is essentially the funnel, which is what happens once you generate all of this traffic, and this traffic is coming into your website, right? So what happens is this. There's three different things you see on the side here that are important that happen with this traffic. One of them is the bounce rate. We want to make sure that this traffic that we're bringing in is actually coming into the website. We want to make sure that the traffic is, once they come into the website, they're engaging with the content that you have. And then once they're actually engaging with the content, we want to make sure that the website, that they're actually converting into customers. So in addition to generating all of that traffic, we need to make sure that all of these other activities are happening. And that's what conversion rate optimization is going to allow us to do. It's going to allow us to really look at and understand what's happening and give us the tools to make sure that we're fixing these items to make sure that they work better and better. So essentially what conversion rate optimization, it's the practice of raising the conversion rate by compelling visitors to your site to take specific actions. And the actions are going to be different for different websites, right? And although CRO is often used to make small incremental improvements, the broader purpose is really to optimize the entire marketing process to make everything work very smoothly. And then the more optimized your marketing is, the higher the conversion rate is. So, the way that I look at conversion rate optimization is that when you build a website, when you put a marketing strategy in place, it's like a race car that you're sending around, the racetrack for a couple turns. Every time it goes around, you tweak a little something. You adjust the engine. So you're fine-tuning the car, so the more it goes around, the better optimized it is. And that's what it is. So let me walk you through a little example. So a lot of websites that we get fall into kind of this example, right? They're having traffic to the website. So in this specific example, they're having about 10,000 visitors a month. And they have a bounce rate of 60%. And the bounce rate is essentially the percentage of people that come into the website, they look at it, and they turn right back around. And the reason they're doing that is because they're looking at the homepage and they're like, I don't know if this is a good fit for me, and they turn right back around. And that's usually a big red flag, right? Because how can they tell that this company or this website is not a good fit for them just by quickly glancing at the homepage? And then this is, again, a pretty normal conversion rate that we see in a lot of websites of 1%. So if you have a bounce rate of 60% and a conversion rate of about 1%, with 10,000 visitors coming in, you are generating about 40 leads, right? Now, if you want to increase those leads to, let's say, 75, you actually have to bring in 19,000 visitors, keeping that bounce rate and that conversion rate at the same time. So as we all know, doubling your website traffic requires a considerable amount of work. It requires time, it requires a big involvement in a lot of different areas like everyone else is talking about. But let's take a look at what happens when you actually optimize this website. So let's say that the bounce rate was at 60%, and we can tweak that home page or whatever the entry page is to bring that bounce rate down to 50%, which is not very hard to do. I think that's a very conservative gain in terms of bounce rate, 10%. And let's say that we can increase the conversion rate just, again, by doing conversion rate optimization and tweaking elements on the page from 1% to 1.5%, which, again, is pretty conservative. All of a sudden now, without having to bring in any more traffic to the website, we still have those 10,000 visitors a month, now we're able to generate 75 leads. And the reason that I think this is so important is because I consider conversion rate optimization a low-hanging fruit. These things that you can do to decrease the bounce rate and to increase the conversion rate are things that you can do rather quickly. And you can see this increase in leads much quicker than you would see increasing the traffic to the website by twofold. So conversion rate optimization is very important and very powerful on its own, but now imagine how well it can work when you're doing the optimization of the website, but you're increasing the website traffic at the same time. That's why conversion rate optimization and search engine optimization work so well together. So essentially, what is conversion rate optimization, right? So a lot of times when we're working on websites or when we're looking at a specific site and someone comes to me and they say, wait a second, we sell products to moms, and on our website today we have a picture of a mother with holding a baby. Do you think my users will convert better instead of that picture if we change it to a picture with a family, with a father and a mother and a baby? What do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. There is no way to know, but there's a way to find out, and that's what conversion rate optimization is. So essentially we have page A, which is the current site, the current homepage. What we do is we say, all right, well, let's go ahead and create the version that you want. Let's put the picture with the family and the baby and the dog in page B. And then let's run an A/B test. So this is what an A/B test looks like. We have your visitors. The A/B test software will then split visitors 50-50. Half of them are going to see the original option. The other half are going to see the second option. And then over usually a week or 2 weeks, depending on how much traffic you have, then you compare the two different pages to see who performed better. And at the end of the actual results, then you say, at the end of the actual test, then you can say, you know what, option B worked a lot better. And then what happens is option B now becomes the permanent page on the website. And by doing this in cycles of A/B testing different pages and different areas and different goals, you're consistently increasing the conversion rate of the website. And that's why, I mean, this exercise right here, this is why, for me, conversion rate optimization is not only so powerful, but it's a lot of fun. Because this is when you're sitting around a table looking at specific pages, people are coming up with ideas on what works better, what doesn't work better. So I'm going to quickly walk you through the steps of running a conversion rate optimization. There's essentially 4 of them. The first one is you have to find out where the problem is. And I'm going to go into these in a little bit more detail on the next slides. So step number 1 is, where is the problem? What page are we going to be looking at? Then once we understand what page we're looking at, we need to understand what is the goal of that page. Once we understand what the goal of that page is, then we need to create the hypothesis, right? What is it about this page that is not working, and what can make it work better? And then once we come up with those hypotheses, then we run the tests, right? We create a variation of that page. We run that A/B test that I just showed you. And at the end of that test, we say, okay, well, this is the winner page. Let's implement this one. Or a lot of times the one that you're testing doesn't really perform better than the page that's on the website, then you leave that one on there. So let me take you through this process real quickly. Step 1, where is the problem? How do we find out what the problem pages are? Essentially what you want to do is you want to log into Google Analytics. And through Google Analytics you want to look at, in this order, because this is the order of the most important to the least important pages that we want to optimize. Number 1, top entry page. What is the page that has the highest amount of people trying to get into the website? Sometimes it's the home page. Sometimes it might be a service page or a blog page. And the reason that I always like to see that one first is because that is the page that we're going to be looking at the bounce rate, right? And the bounce rate, once we fix the bounce rate, there's a lot of other opportunities available to us. So the bounce rate I always look at, let's say that the website is a club, and then we're throwing a party in there. And the entry page is how many actual people are we going to let in. So if we have a bounce rate of a lot of people, we want to make sure that we open those doors up to let a lot more people into the party, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at when we're looking at the top entry pages. And then the second most important one is the top entry templates. And what I mean by templates is a page that is replicated in a lot of different pages by using a template. And the reason that that is so important is because once we actually can find and solve an issue on a template page, that solution automatically translates to a lot of the other template pages, right? And then once we go in, we say, okay, what are the most visited pages? What can we fix in there? What are the top exit pages? Exit pages are very important, right? Because once we have people in the website, we don't want them to leave without converting. So we go to these top exit pages and say, ask ourselves, why are they leaving? What can we put in here to increase the conversion rate? Then again, top converting pages, other important pages that we want to look at. Once we find out what the page is, and I'll use the home page as an example, there's three main goals, right, when I'm doing conversion rate optimization that I want to look at. One, bounce rate. If it's a page, if it's an entry page, I want people to come into the website and not leave. The second is, once they're actually inside a page, what's the engagement, what's the activities that I want them to do in there? And the third one, specific conversion pages, is we want to make sure that they're converting. So once I understand what the goal is, then I can start looking at the problem. So when I'm looking at a page, then I'm starting to figure out what is the problem with this page. And it usually falls into 6 buckets. You know, value proposition. This is by far the most important one. Are we clearly communicating what the value proposition is? Or are we saying something that's connecting to our audience? Relevance. You know, does a web page deliver on what they're expecting? Does it match their needs? Clarity, and this is the one that we usually spend the most time on, is how easily is your value proposition communicated. This has a lot to do with the design, the UI, the UX. Anxiety, what elements on the page could be creating uncertainty for your prospects to take action? Distraction, you know, are there elements on there that's really diverting visitors away from what your primary goal is? And urgency, you know, are you matching the visitor's internal urgency in creating external incentives? So I'm going to take you through a quick example, and this is just something that we did on our own website. So on the left, let's say that, and our real website is the one on the right, but on the website on the left, let's say that we figure out, I go to Google Analytics and I say, you know what, the home page has an issue with bounce rate. People are coming to this page, but they're turning right back around. What could be the issue? And then one of the theories that I might have, the hypothesis, is that we're not giving them a clear call to action. So then I create variation B, and I put a clear call to action on the top right and say, hey, you know, if this is something that you want to talk about, click here and discuss this project. And then I would run an A/B test where 50% would go to one, 50% to the other, and by 2 weeks, I look at the analytics and look at that. The variation B has a 7% decrease in the bounce rate. So then I would launch this new homepage and then do the A/B test all over again. So this exercise becomes extremely powerful. So at the end of the day, I think that running SEO and CRO side by side make the results much more powerful and much more efficient. And again, this is a very quick presentation on a very in-depth process, so I'll be available to answer questions at the end of this or after the webinar is over. And with that being said, I will hand this off to Neil and let him take us home.
Actually, Daniel, can you go to the next slide, please? And we're actually right at the end of the time that we allotted. Oh, actually, sorry, Neil, back to you.
Yeah, so yeah, we perhaps we can go on for 10, 15 minutes, maybe slightly longer if there's some questions. But I'll try and wrap this up within, say, 5 minutes. So, omni-channel.
Neil, I made you the presenter, huh?
Okay.
Right, and then a lot of people ask if we're recording this session. Yes, you will leave the link to the recording. So if you need to leave now, apologize that we ran over, but you will get the link to the recording. I hope you can stay with us another 5-10 minutes.
Yep, can you see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Okay, so we're talking omni-channel content marketing strategy, which is how do I create content in multiple formats in across multiple channels, because my audience exists across multiple channels and like to consume content in different ways, in an integrated approach or strategy. So brands with more digital touch points convert sales at a rate 2.5 times greater than lower level brands. Some research done by McKinsey. Customers, so this is some research done by OmniSense. So customers who engaged with campaigns using 3 or more channels spent 13% more than those who did not. So clearly existing and having a presence and having a clear strategy and a consistent strategy across multiple channels leads to more business. So what does omni-channel content creation look like? It is creating content, publishing content, strategizing content across a number of channels. That's not to say you need to be across all of these channels, but pick a few. Pick the ones where you believe your audience are and go all in on those. And then also look at the buyer's journey and create content across each stage of the customer journey. So when a message is personalized to the customer, the channel, and the stage of the customer, and the stage of the customer journey, that message will be much more relevant to that customer. So what does that look like? Let's just go through some quick examples. So you could look at your website copy, like Lisa was saying, your conversational copy, and as well as storyfying your copy through the Storyfy copy on the left-hand side, then making it more engaging through design on the right. This is something we do a number of times, and a number of customers actually recently in the last 3 months we've come across who have said, yeah, we don't really like the design of our look. It doesn't design of our site. It doesn't really showcase us in the best possible light, or we're experts in this space, but our website doesn't say that. And generally, that's not a design problem, that's a message problem. You get the message right first, i.e. left-hand side, then you get the design to fit the message, not the other way around. You could also look at blog content, creating content that is awareness driven, i.e. optimized for SEO. It's driving search traffic as well as search value. You could look at education content, educating people, really persuading them on why you're the best. You could at this stage also kill 2 birds with 1 stone by optimizing that education content for SEO, depending on the topic that you're going for. You'll find on my blog or on yourbrandfound.com, that's my own blog, or on the Bubble site, on the Bubble blog, the content on there is not necessarily targeting a particular keyword. It's targeting, let's say, a trend at the moment, and this is something I'll talk about in a sec. Or brand storytelling. This is what customers are looking for. Is looking for your story, your startup story, or your story last week. Last week my story was all about the pasta sauce that I made after 3 years of trying to make the pasta sauce, and suddenly I've worked it out because I've got the time, because I've got nothing else to do at home during this lockdown, so other than work in the day, but now I've got the evenings to suss that out. So those are things I'm sharing, and I'm not even joking, those are actual things I'm sharing on Instagram. So next slide is around social media, social storytelling. What stories are you creating on your Instagram channel? TikTok, is TikTok a channel for you? If you're targeting, anywhere between 15, 16-year-olds to 25, TikTok is probably a strong consideration right now. Or Instagram, YouTube at the moment. I recently saw a feature on Google where it's now showing videos on search, which is nothing new, but now you can actually go to the portion of that video that answers the question you're looking for. That's really cool, right? So you can also repurpose that video for other channels, and we'll go into that. Wow content. So how are you wowing your customers? The infographic on the right hand side was for one of our restaurant interior design clients, where they've got over 10 years of experience designing restaurants. They know their stuff. Now what we did is just helped to take what was in their head and present it in a way that anyone who is looking to build a restaurant now understands what it's going to cost. And that infographic got picked up by Entrepreneur. That's not a bad result from just producing something special and something with the wow factor. We talked about video content. The world is going visual. There is no doubt about that. And I know over the last 5 years, you read any article, what's the trend for next year? Video, visual. That seems to be the trend every single year. And to be honest, that trend is just growing, and it is next year's trend. If you're blogging, you now need to think about presenting that blog in a visual format. Or, it doesn't necessarily need to be a video, it could be an infographic or an image, but it needs to go visual because Google is now ranking visual. People engage with visual more and more. It's just where we're going. We're humanizing the brand. We're going towards a real relationship, as close as what that could possibly look like. But you do need an omni-channel content strategy that pulls all of this together and ultimately optimizes your time and budget, and above all, deliver on results. So I was thinking about, how do I present that, and how do we get people, on this webinar, actually taking this information and moving to the next step. And this is kind of the best way that I thought of answering that very question, is not going tactical. There's no need to go tactical at this point in time. What we need to do is be strategic, and depending on time, depending on how big your team is, I would recommend getting everyone around the table, the virtual table on Zoom or free conference call, whatever, or Google Hangouts. And actually just getting everyone ideas and just putting them, on on paper. And to give you an example, this is what Bubble looks like. We aim for 2 blog posts every month, and they generally, on the left-hand side, they're generally how-to or trend-related content. We're just keeping it simple at this stage. We will likely do a blog post around the webinar because that's timely. We are optimizing the blog post where relevant for organic SEO traffic, and then the second bubble is around sharing that content on Facebook and LinkedIn. That is super simple. We're already creating content. Why wouldn't we share it? Going towards the bottom, we have an Instagram channel that we are connecting with people. We're sharing our content, and we're creating more of a conversation there. It's very much authentic, non-edited, in the moment type content. I've just posted on my personal Instagram channel about the webinar that we're doing, on Twitter as well. That took me a second to do. Added a couple of hashtags because why not, and then on the right hand side we've got some videos that I'm planning to do, which are optimized. If you look at the blue bubbles below, so I'm creating videos, but I'm creating them with a view to get them ranked and optimized for YouTube. So it's really important when you're creating content to think about distribution. If distribution doesn't make sense, then maybe the content topic doesn't make sense. Justify it some sort of way. It doesn't necessarily need to go viral every single time. Aiming for virality is probably a losing battle, but aiming for one person to read, consume, and engage with the content is a winning battle. And then, when the SEO starts kicking in, that's a bonus, right? So I'm planning to share that on Instagram, YouTube, or, we're going to repurpose that into a blog and then have 2 versions because some people like to read versus watch video. And then also emailing that to my subscribers, as well as Bubble subscribers. And then right at the top, everything else is organic around content. The dark bubble at the top is around paid content promotion. Using Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, potentially Google ads or Google native ads to short-term get that content in front of the right people, and then long-term for you to grow the brand. I wouldn't, depending on how often you're planning to post and produce content, I wouldn't, go with a huge budget on the paid side. It's just a budget that you can sustain over a long period of time to get you in some early viewers who you can then retarget later on. So that would be my recommendation as a next step for your content strategy. Chris, Lisa, Daniel, thank you.
Well, we're just about 10 minutes over time. Apologize for that. The rehearsal went way faster. We'll stay online for a bit longer. If you guys have any questions, I mean, I think it was a very thorough webinar. Neil, Lisa, Daniel, thank you so much. I mean, you definitely answered as well some of my questions that I had. Gosh, why don't we, let's see, let's wait for some questions here. Lisa, are you still there? If you have one more tip, one more last tip, or something that will help attendees get started, what would that be?
I would say with the conversational strategy, like the conversational style in mind, if we go back to what Neil was saying right at the very start, to just one thing you could do right now is to write a piece on where you guys came from. You know, what did you set out to do? Is that what it looks like now? How might you have done things differently? And not even to really try and sell anything on the back of it. Like maybe, you know, try and get people to sign up to a newsletter on the back of it, but just try and create a genuinely valuable piece of writing where you speak to your reader as a real person and not as a data point. And then on the back of that, you can just use that going forward as your kind of your centerpiece for how you're going to base your tone of voice going forwards when you're writing all of your copy.
Yeah, totally. Question, how long should our content be? So if you're talking about a blog post, I would say try to write at least 500 to 600 words, otherwise it's like a Facebook post.
It does depend though. Huh? It does depend what the purpose is, isn't it? It's
it depends. It depends on. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say what you carry on. It's a simple question. It's hard to answer though, isn't it? Because if you're targeting a particular keyword, then the strategy for that keyword is going to be very different to another keyword. That let's say one keyword is what's shown on page 1 of Google is 3,000 words. You know, on average, competitors are writing 3,000 words to target that keyword, and that's what Google wants, and that's what users want. They want something really deep, versus another keyword which actually doesn't have the depth, but it requires the quality and the ability to be concise. So I don't think we can go away giving guideline. I think yes, if you're just creating a piece of content, a blog post that is, like Lisa was saying, is your why or your story, then yeah, 500 to 600 words for sure, that works. But if you're looking to potentially, kill two birds with one stone and also rank in Google for a particular term, then it really depends on the keyword that you're trying to go for, and that's actually the purpose of the SEOwriter.io. That's the exact purpose of that tool, is to guide you on what you need to produce for content for a particular keyword. But yeah, Chris, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so basically don't go below 500 to 600 words, right? That's the minimum. Usually, if you can go above 1,000 words, that piece will traditionally rank better. But yeah, it depends. What is the topic, what's the competition, etc. Just don't go below 500-600 words, because then it simply is potentially a Facebook post. All right, let's see. Do you do technical questions such as how do you optimize a picture in my website? I made my website with Wix. Muriel, let me see. Do you do technical questions such as how? Oh, okay, got it. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, that's a very long tail keyword, right? I mean, super high intent. How do you optimize a picture in my website? I would look at, how many people are actually searching for this particular keyword or a phrase that matches a keyword that people are actually searching for. And then if you see a fit, if you can drive people back to your website through that keyword, that makes sense to optimize for that keyword or write a blog post specifically about that, long tail keyword. Then actually, Daniel, do you want to say a quick word about Wix and SEO, just real quick, because we had a few potential client calls that are in that situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, really quickly, in our experience, Wix is a really good platform if you, as a business owner, want to create a website and have quick and easy ways to do that. But in terms of the SEO perspective of it, it really limits our ability as an SEO agency, or even as a website owner, to do a lot of the actual on-page optimization. Because it's a closed application, it doesn't allow us to do some of the things that are really important that really need to be in there. So a lot of the clients that we work with that actually come on board with the simple Wix website, one of the initial steps that we actually work on, that's a very important step, is actually migrating that Wix website into a WordPress website, which, number one, gives us a lot of flexibility to do all the fixes and updates that we need on the on-page optimization, but number two, historically has an infrastructure that ranks a lot better under Google's algorithm. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, if you have any questions about Wix and SEO, please reach out. We're definitely experts in that field. Go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry, I do have a quick point about optimizing pictures in your website for Wix. It's just that when you're posting your image, if you click on it and just go to the settings icon, I think it is, it's like a little cog. There is a section there just to say, where it says what's in this image, tell Google, and that's where you would add alt text to the image. So that's where you just tell Google what the image is of, and it's a good thing to do for SEO, because if you have a very visual brand, then people might actually find your products or your services on Google Images instead of on your regular Google text search. So if you just make sure that on all your images that section that says what's in the image, tell Google, is filled out, it's a good way to optimize your images for SEO, and you can do it in Wix as well.
Awesome. So we still have 30 people with us and questions are coming in. Why don't we go for a little bit longer so that we can answer a few more questions. Lynn, I realized that our impression is increasing, but CTR, the click-through rate, is decreasing year over year. What should I do to improve CTR? So that I think you're referring to the search engine results pages where your website is shown in relation to a keyword, but less people actually clicking on your snippet. I think that's what you're asking. Well, I mean, the best way, one of the ways to do that is to optimize your meta tags, title and description. That's usually one of the first things that we do, and we usually see an increase in click-through rates. Neil, Daniel, do you guys have any other tips on that?
No, I think you're right on, Chris. I think it's really, I mean, what that tells me is that, what they're searching for and what they're looking at, the search results in terms of the description, they're not aligning. So it's really understanding what the intent is, who your audience is, understand what they're looking for, and understanding what information you need to put on that little snippet to make sure that it's a seamless transition from what they're searching to what they're finding. So I think it's really just fine-tuning that content.
The other thing I would add is, so you need to really look at the search results for that keyword. So the search results are changing. We now have featured snippets. Some days we might not have featured snippets. Google is constantly changing how they present data. They are, a number of years ago when we didn't have this thing called featured snippets, or people also ask questions, that encouraged people to click on the link to then go to the website, right? CTRs were good. Now that Google is extracting the information from your site and presenting it to Google in search results, it's now discouraging CTR. So your impressions are still there, but now people don't need to click, because now they can get the information they need, or they can validate whether it is something they're looking for or not up front without going to your website. So what I would be looking at this stage is, what keywords are you targeting? What does the search result now look like? has it changed from when you checked it? And that's what you want to look for. You want to look for, is Google changing the appearance of search results which now discourage that click-through? That's an important aspect to this question. I think this is a great question. Actually, Chris, if there's any way we can download some of these questions for our own blog posts, these are really useful.
No, actually, Neil, that's a great point. So Google is trying to answer more questions like right on their website, which I think is fine. A lot of people have seen a decrease in click-through rates simply because people are now finding that content right on Google. So this is why it's so hyper important. You're going to get less people to your website. So once they get to your website, the content has to be so amazing, or you have to give them a reason to, connect with you further. It's going to get trickier and trickier because Google wants to keep more people on their website, basically answer more questions right there. So we'll continue to see that where you get more impressions, but less, a lower click-through rate.
Yeah, Chris, I have a kind of a follow-up question on that. But are you saying that essentially because we have the position 0 now, right? And the position 0, you actually get a lot of answers. So this is actually a good opportunity to find a way to get that page and then format it and optimize it correctly to be listed as a position 0. Would that be kind of a strategy as well to look into?
Yeah, it's a great way to potentially decrease the bounce rate on your website. Oftentimes people, they just quickly went to a website, they found what they're looking for, they bounced right away. So that's a strategy that Google deployed to basically answer those questions. So you should also see a decrease in your bounce rate. So it's give and take, but if it makes sense for your business to get into the position 0, basically position there on Google, I would say go all in, try to get those answers questions. Still your brand will benefit because Google will display who the website, is from, etc. But as Google changes the SERPs, how they display information, this changes all the time, right? There's this beauty of SEO, but it's all the tricky of SEO. How we best manage, how Google is going to display information. All right, so with that said, we're just a little bit over time here. We still have a lot of people with us. If there are no other questions, Lisa, Neil, Daniel, thanks so much for making the time to present this session with me today. Any last tip, Neil, starting with you?
Thanks, everyone. I would say start with your story. What makes you unique, and go from there.
Awesome. Daniel?
Yeah, no, quickly, and just from the little bit that we've learned about CRO, take a look at your website and start thinking about things that you might want to test.
Cool. Lisa, you already shared your tip? We're available to answer any questions you have. We also put on more webinars over the next few months, years, so stay in touch. You'll get a link to the recording, and we hope that you can join us next time again. Sorry, we went a little bit over time, but it sounds like you guys were interested and stayed with us the whole time. All right, stay safe out there and healthy. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.